It costs a lot of money to use studios, and we, after our second album, you know, decided that we'd be better off having our own studios, you know. Which in fact, you're not, because you live here and you're more relaxed, then you take twice as long. And it, you know, there's no pressure because it's not costing you £1,000 a day, you know, like it would be in the commercial studio. So it actually makes us work slower. But it's a great luxury to have it. You know.
And it's consistent.
We've jammed and made albums, but we don't do it like that anymore. I wish we did.
So do I. Yeah, man. Well, there you go.
So we will on the next album. We probably will jam it because, you know, we've recorded in every type of way you can think, you know, and we've done them. We've recorded in Jamaica and in France and Italy and everywhere. But really, it's easy. It's easier to do it here.
It's good to go home of a night after the work, and it is a job, you know. And it's good to get, if you can get your head around it like it's a job rather than a game. You know, when you go to NASA or something, and you're on a desert island or in Jamaica, it's kind of like an adventure, and you can get distracted from the work a little bit. No, you know, whereas this way we start at a certain time and go home for our dinner with the families.
I've recorded in Jamaica over, I don't know, 15 years or something, and I'm more productive there than anywhere else, just because it's the home of reggae, you know.
Well, it's our kind of music,
put me in Tuscany or south of France, and I'm not so productive.
For distractions.
Yeah, in Jamaica, it's
and you get
wonderful.
inspired all the time, you know. And the truth is, it's never quiet in Jamaica. You know, there's always music on.
It's a bass line rumbling somewhere at all times.
And up where we lived on the north coast, the Roccabessa and Ocho Rios, all around there, there's just so many sound systems, isn't there? And
yeah, it's constant.
It's constant, yeah.
24/7.
True story is, we never used to hear anything like Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or, you know, all these big classic acts that we're aware of now, but we just never used to hear them. Didn't know anything about them and didn't know their songs. Or somebody said to us once, that song you've got's the same as a Van Morrison song. We said, who's he? We really, you know, just genuinely didn't have a clue. And we love music, you know.
We love reggae music.
We love reggae, but that's what you used to hear where we lived.
Always the blues happening somewhere.
And it was all reggae where we lived.
So it was just pure reggae music, you know, from Friday night till Monday morning.
The Labour of Love albums that we did were all what we consider to be #1 reggae classics.
Yeah, we thought everybody knew them.
But nobody knew them, you know, and that's why it was a good idea to record them, because to us, who were in a very small minority in Birmingham, listening to reggae music, you know, they were big, massive classics, whereas...
And they were in small little pockets around the country at the same time.
Sure,
you know,
yeah.
like
The same kind of neighbourhoods.
Liverpool, around certain parts of
Manchester.
like North London. You know, it was the same. Leeds, you know, it was the same. But like, you know, you go out of those little pockets and like, you know, it's just totally alien to everything that anybody's ever heard.
Well, originally, we wanted to get a jazz dub reggae band together. That's what we called ourselves. That was always the plan, and we didn't play any instruments, so we learned to play reggae. You know, we learned by listening to records and learn how to play. We can't play any other type of music. You know, Brian can play saxophone, but he's the only one who actually reads music out of the whole band. We
desperately wanted to start a band, but we just couldn't have done it, the punk thing. It was just so bad, you know. And even though the ethos was really cool and that we were going to start a band whether the punk thing existed or not, or whether the two-tone thing ever came about, you know, that happened at the same time we were doing it. We were always going to be a band, but we were going to be a band in the tradition of musicians, you know, where you learn to play. And where we'd start work, so we'd start work at 9 o'clock every morning, When we weren't we were on the dole and that, but if you had to be there at 9 o'clock, and if you weren't, there was murder, you know. You didn't take it serious, and so fuck off, basically, you know what I mean? If you're not going to do it, don't bother doing it, but if you want to do it, and the guys that didn't became our road crew.
When we started, they wouldn't play our records on the radio, and 50 million records later, and 23 years, whatever it is, they still won't play our records on the radio. So we've still got that drive, you know. We've still got a reason for making reggae.
We just want to be loved, really, you know. And until somebody loves us, we're going to keep doing it.
For the amount of people who love reggae music and for the influence it's had on contemporary music, it's absurd that it doesn't get the airplay that it should.
And people just don't cite the influence that reggae music and dub music has had on contemporary music, you know, on house music and techno and just everything, man. It's just it all comes back to one point, you know. It all comes back to the art of production. I mean, if you look now, there's not many bands really. There's a lot of music makers. I'm not decrying it, because music, however it comes together, is great, you know. But there's not a lot of bands, and there's not a lot of musicians who work hard at learning to play that phrase in the best way they can in every note. It's all about production, and the tools that, you know, the production tools are there to create great records. But, you know, it all goes back to playing music, you know.
I think it's good. I think it's good.
Yeah, he's kicking. We were hoping to get him on one of the songs on the new album, but we can't get hold of him. We've been trying for 6 months to get hold of Sean Paul and pin him down to do. We wanted him to do a version of Young Guns from the new album, Homegrown. But,
we've got a lot of mates in Jamaica, you know, all the time we spent there, and a lot of them, like, you know, like Beanie Man and Vegas and all them guys. They did tunes with us when they were, before they cracked it, you know, and we'd make albums when we were out there and get all the DJs working them. So it's very gratifying to see them have some success, especially as them being Jamaicans, you know, and it's so very difficult for them to get a break.
Sean Paul is at least sticking to reggae, you know. He's a reggae artist, you know, and that's what he's doing. Yeah. It's not you know, a softened down or a crossover type thing. It's for real.
Well, our original idea was to help popularise reggae music, and as Ali's already said, you know, it's not played enough, and so it's not as popular as we'd like it to be, so we're still on a mission.
I think our records speak for themselves, really, you know, whether you like them or you don't like them. We haven't become an R&B band, and we haven't, you know, we don't follow any trends. We really do stick to our guns. Partly, it's kind of choice, but for truth's sake, because we can't do anything else. You know, we're kind of trapped in there.
We can't play anything
we
but
can't,
reggae.
but then, you know, we're not ashamed of that, because
I don't think any of us want to play anything else but reggae.
Because we always felt it was a question of integrity, you know, that you stick to, you know, if you're going to express yourself and claim to be something, stick to it, and, you know, good or bad.
That's what we smoke.
I don't smoke.
That's what I smoke.
That's what he smokes.
Homegrown is what I smoke, yeah. Yes, of course, it's about us being coming from Birmingham and, you know, making our own thing, but still being here and all that, you know. We are homegrown, aren't we?
We wanted to make more of a dub album than a conventional album, but then by the time it was done, it was
half and half.
Half and half. You know, it was kind of conventional, so we put lots of extended music on, which is what we really love, you know. And
well, with the first dub album we made, which was about 20 years ago, there were people taking it back to the shops, saying, you know, there's no singing on it.
Singing on it.
The record's wrong, you know. So you have to be careful, you know, especially when you sell your major records that we do. Yeah, you've got to be careful what you're giving people, because if they're not, I mean, that was 20 years ago, and not many people knew what dub was, you know.
Personally, I think that a record is about the music and the melody. You know, and if you can't remember the melody, then it's not a very good record. You know, it's the best tunes you can la 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 to as in the right melody. You go, God, that's brilliant. It makes the hair stand up on your neck without knowing the words. So that's what we try to do. Make really great. And he writes all the melodies, and he writes beautiful melodies.
A lot more with the drum and bass pattern and things than you can with lyrics anyway. You know,
Sure,
in
yeah.
reggae there's a family, a fraternity, you know, around the world, and everybody relates to you know, drums and bass the way it comes from reggae, you know. And so I think it's like, you know, it's not that important.
No, I agree.
What the lyrics are.
But if you've got to have words,
it's where the music's coming
then you've
from.
got to have a degree of, you know, of pride about what you're doing. You know, you've got to mean what you're saying. And we're all guys, we're all in our 40s now, and we can talk about personal things, and personal things are political when you're our age. You know, we're not dreamy 16-year-olds talking about holding hands. Do you know what I mean? But we can talk about holding hands, and it can be quite political and quite poignant, you know. Do you know what I'm saying? Because of our age, we're not trying to be anything we're not.
I don't write music or anything, and I've got no way of, when I'm writing a song, I have to do it in my head, and I do that.
If you can't remember it, as anyone else can.
Yeah, exactly. If I can't remember it, then I can't expect anyone else to. So.
And that's what you try to do. You try to write something that's memorable. You know, that touches people, and it only touches them if I can remember it. If it's instantly forgettable, you haven't made the grade, you know. And I believe that's what music's about. All music, even the great classics, if you can't remember that main theme, that main piece of orchestration, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
I'm given backing tracks that the band have put together, and I'll have lyrics in front of me, and I'll listen to the music until I find a piece that kind of goes with the mitre of the lyric, you know, and then I'll just plonk it on and hope for the best.
And then, you know, times if a tune's good and we're digging the tune, then we might write, you know, like then start styling choruses or bridges. That, you know, because he's got a melody, but there wasn't any words that went with that bridge melody. So, you know, there's no formula though, is there?
No set pattern.
You know, any formula is, he does all the work. Thank God.
Some you can do in hours, you know, so you get inspired and you go, oh, wicked, you know, and you go in, you do that. Yeah. But then what happens with us is, if anyone has an idea, it always has to then go through the Politburo, right, the 8 members of the band. Yeah. So any one idea you have always becomes a compromise anyway, and I think that's what UB40 is. It's 8 people compromising with each other, and that's what you get in the end, is that's what UB40 is, 8 compromising people.
It just gets left around, and
left in the studio.
And if somebody carries on playing on it, and it gains a bit more momentum, or feels more complete, you know, or improved as well, you know. So we can have stuff that's not going to it gets left, and somebody will put something on, and he elevates it up, and makes it inspirational for other people to work on. So, you know, it's
Rings and roundabouts.
We're winging it, basically.
Winging it, yeah.
It's, I don't know, it reminds me of Beanie Man.
Yeah, but it's it does sum up Earl, because that's where Earl's at.
Yeah.
You know, with his house.
Yeah, he's very left field.
Yeah.
He's well into his dance music, and he makes lots of drum and bass stuff, doesn't he? And, you know, more experimental than, say, we are as a band.
Yeah.
Individually, we all like to experiment with stuff, but as a band, we're kind of very traditional, I suppose.
I'm always recording stuff, all sorts. You know, I'm doing some stuff at the moment upstairs.
I write instrumental stuff for films and things, you know. Give me a chance to do things that aren't ready.
And then go back to doing UB40 music, you know, I think that's quite interesting when, you know, if I'm doing stuff outside of the band.
Yeah.
And then I come back into the band, it's totally different stuff. Well, if you listen to Just Be Good to Each Other, you've got Astro coming in with a little verse that is all about George Bush and what an animal he is. So that's a very interesting little song. It's like 2 songs in one.
I think it's really blatant.
A reformed coke addict, puppet on a string. Daddy gives me credit, so I'm living like a king. You know, it's a good lyric.
Yeah, it's a good one.
On top of,
in fact, that's the important lyric. The other thing is just a bit of sugar to wrap it up in, really.
Yeah.
You know, for a melody, it's a melody that's important.
I mean, like the song's a bit sickly. You know, just be good to each other, especially when we've already brought out "Love Is All Right." Yeah. But got to find a little bit more. Yeah.
Well, it's just be good to each other. Then you've got what's really happening. We're not really outspoken, we just, you know, there's songs that are, I suppose can be called current, you know, there's a song about guns, you know, that are called Young Guns, which is really an answer to all the crap you hear from 50 Cent and people like him, you know, and you know, that whole gangster rap thing, you know, where it's all about, I'm going to fill you full of lead and I got something for your ass, you know, and all that. You know, so Young Guns is an answer to that, you know. So Young Guns never grow old, you know, hold it down. Hey, hot shot, you're a one-man band. The Don on the block with the Glock in your hand.
It affected us greatly in Birmingham now, because, you know, little girls getting shot like that.
Yeah, and a few people had said to us, you know, we should do something, you know, sing something about it, you know.
But we, you know, we did a song called I Got Mine, but 15 years, 18 years ago or something, about, you know, the fact that it was getting easy to buy guns, you know. I mean, it's not a recent thing, really.
You can say what's on your mind, but don't expect it to change anything. Right. But you can at least stand up and be counted, you know, and say what you think. And, you know, and we're not trying to attach any sloganeering to it, because that would be misread then. Like we're trying to cash in on somebody's grief, so, you know, we didn't title the album Young Guns, this is dedicated to the little girls that got shot in Aston. You know, because it just diffuses and turns it into a commercial, you know, it's monstrous really, you know, to use grief as a selling point. Yeah, but it's, you know, we are getting off a wall and, you know, getting behind an attitude. And it isn't cool, you know, and there's so many artists, musicians, because they're all kids, so that's the problem. They're just young kids, haven't grown their hearts properly yet, and they were glamorising the gun effect, and it's their fear, see. They're so frightened that they think a gun's going to stop them being frightened. You know, it's terrible, really.
Well, there's a whole new movement all across Europe now for reggae. Young white dreads, basically, who are 16 years old, you know. Very young kids.
Germany, what's it like?
There's a real big new, and homegrown as well, you know, European reggae.
Singing in their own languages, this is it. You know, a couple of years ago we had an album called Cover Up As, and the title track Cover Up was for the United Nations asked us to do a song for their AIDS awareness campaign. So we wrote a song, and then we thought, well, we'll see if we can get foreign artists, reggae artists, to do a version of a song with us, but in their language, rather, because everybody always says, can we do a French version or Spanish or Japanese even, you know, and it never comes off right. It's like if you hear Pavarotti, you want to hear him sing in Italian, don't you? You don't hear him singing in English. So we start looking for artists there's plenty of foreign artists who sing in English, but then we realised there's all these German kids, Bantu and Gentlemen, singing in German. Mickey Dozan in Japan singing reggae, but in Japanese. Ringo Madlingozi, not so much reggae, but kind of reggae influence. You know, a South African black guy, you know, and he's singing in his language. In
Nilo, the Cuban record.
Nilo, a Cuban kid, you know, living in Germany, but singing in Spanish and reggae. So we did that, and it's that's encouraging, I think, for reggae music, that people are rediscovering it, but not trying to emulate, not singing with silly Jamaican accents, but singing in their own tongue, you know.
Well, that's what was nice about the Fathers album. That was our heroes, the people whose songs we covered on the Labour of Love series.
Oh, yeah.
They then
Doing
sang
songs,
UB40 songs, and that's what the Fathers album was about. That was them.
Mighty Diamonds and Gregory Isaacs and
everybody too.
John Holt and Ken Booth, Toots. Everybody, you know, it was really cool. But then a lot of these guys we know from Jamaica anyway now. You know, and they've always come up and say, thanks for doing that tune. I bought myself 75 limousines.
Well, Sean Paul's done a version of Red Wine.
Somebody called me up and said it's licking, bitching, kicking, or something like that.
It was the other one. Food for Thought, there's a version of.
What's that?
Stylish Junkies, they're actually a Birmingham outfit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm even more happy.
Yeah, the one kid actually lived round the corner from my mum and dad's on the Warwick Road.
But you didn't know him?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you know,
yeah, I used to hang out with my younger brother.
Well, that don't count.
Well,
We're supposed to not know him.
well, I can't lie.
It's the year of the three, right? 83 we had a number one with Red Wine. 93 we had a number one with Can't Help Falling in Love. And 2003 we'll have a number one with Swing Low Sweet Chariot.
No.
Yeah. It's the
Yeah, it's 93, 93.
Yeah.
Red Wine went to number one in America. Something like about 5 years after it had been out in everywhere else. And the guy, this radio station in Phoenix, Arizona, the guy's programming the station, and it was a very influential program. You know, that many radio stations copied his formatting, and he didn't like the Ziggy Marley tune that he was given for his reggae tune, so he put Red Wine in, and all the stations copied his programming, and it went to number one. Neil Diamond does our version of his shows, and then he pretends to be Astro, and therefore he must die. So we only did that because we felt sorry for him after the scene, the jazz singer. You know, but look what's happened to this poor man.
We didn't know that was Neil Diamond at the time.
No.
It just, it's like all of the covers, you know, they were, most of the reggae covers, most of the reggae classics were covers of American songs, you know, but we only knew them as reggae songs.
Tony Tribes was a version, weren't it?
Yeah.
You know, like you hear the original Red Wine, God, it's a right miserable load of crap. No, it is, it's miserable. Do you know what I mean? Red. Where's the Jamaican ads? Yeah, but the Jamaican ads, you know, they
Put a bit of life.
Put a bit of life into it, because that was the style of, you know, Jamaicans are a part, well, you know, everybody knows what they're like. They have a good time, you know, they love it up.
Whatever technology is available, we
use it. We love it, yeah.
Well, it's Practice 2000, basically. It was Earl and Jimmy, you know, kind of got into that on this album, which gives it a certain sound, you know.
We've got good sounds,
electronically sound.
We use the technology and then bring it back into the arena of a traditional band where you go walk on stage and plug the instruments in and play. But we have so many vocalists, don't we? And we have like live horn sections and keyboards that are played. Do you know what I mean? It's not pressing a button and a sequence runs.
No, we don't.
Because we've got so many people playing live. Well, you know, when you play live, you bring the records to life. You know, you turn it. It's only half the job making a record, And I think a lot of people miss the point. You know, they make records and say, oh, I don't like going on the road. I think they're missing a really wonderful element of being a musician, you know. And it can be very nerve-wracking and make your knees knock together when you're little.
Good,
but then it's a wonderful thing to express yourself and nail them tunes down.
It makes you realise whether or not the tunes that you've been working on in the studio are any good. Yeah, you can work on it so many hours.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. But if you play it to an audience and like you can watch them going off to the toilet,
and it doesn't touch them,
then you know you've missed the mark.
We generally have great gigs because it is a reggae family, you know, and anywhere you go in the world, we have good gigs.
You know, when you go somewhere new, it's always
New Zealand.
kind of great, isn't it? Because if you haven't been there before, you know, and it's kind of exciting after doing so much travelling. We went to Sri Lanka and that was kind of cool, and the first time we went to South Africa, the first time we went to America.
The time we played Johannesburg, that was a pretty special
That was
occasion.
special,
That was
wasn't it?
80,000. We still have the record for attendance in South Africa, which is 80,000 people. There's more tension there now, but you know, when we first played there in Johannesburg, it was after the cultural boycott had been lifted and everything, you know, and we were sing our own song, which was a song that we'd written for South Africa. So it was very moving.
There was a great optimism at that time, you know, and amongst everybody. I think 5 years on, there's it's still good, but I think people are more realistic about what it actually meant. And okay, now get back on with life and just do the right thing, you know. And that's not always easy for people.
It's been brilliant.
Wonderful.
We've done 6 world tours, you know. We've been around the world 6 times, and we're just off on another one. We're off to Tahiti in a minute.
Yeah. And New Caledonia.
From our first single, you know, it was number 4, and so we've been touring since then, and it's what we do.
It's amazing that we've been able to take our entire social circle around with us.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, you know, as we said earlier, our road crew are our mates who didn't want to be in a band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, plus being able to bring all the wives, kids, you know, babysitters, whatever. You know what I mean? You know, fabulous. Yeah. Fabulous.
Brilliant. We're playing two nights at the NEC on this tour, and we always have a...
And that goes up to Christmas Eve. We could probably do a week there.
Yeah.
Well, we know
But
everybody.
we just haven't got a week.
We know everybody in the whole 5 blocks, you know, so it's always a good party in Birmingham.
But I think people are proud that that we don't cry down where we're from. You know, people say where you're from. We say Birmingham. No matter how unfashionable that might appear, in the home counties. It's something we can't escape, isn't it? Our Birminghamness, our Englishness, and even though all of most of our families are not English. My family's Irish. He's a West Indian. He's a Scots. Who all came to Birmingham during the 50s because it was a devastated city after the war, and an industrial. So there was jobs for everybody who couldn't get a job where they lived, but because we all went to school with each other and grew up here, and our families here, it's something we can't escape.
Yeah.
We had to look at it first, because we thought it was a gospel song. We were a bit worried about UB40 doing that, but we looked into the history of it, and it's actually a plantation song, a covert escaping song. It's about escaping, and Swing Low Sweet Chariot specifically refers to an underground railroad that they had in Ripley in Ohio.
Yeah.
So we thought, wicked, that's good, then we'll do that.
It's got it was written by a runaway slave.
And we've done it with United Colours of Sound, who are a gospel outfit. And
Great singers.
yeah, we're quite happy with it. But that was just an idea that, came to fruition.
Kind of nice bit of luck, really, to be... asked to do something like that as when we've got an album coming out. It helps us promote our wares a little bit.
It's also the best chance that England have had for 20 years of actually doing anything in the rugby, you know, in a World Cup. So.
But they are looking good now.
We played it at Twickenham last week, and we in front of like a crowd, you know, 70-odd thousand people, and it was an incredible experience, really, you know. And they gave us a box to watch a game
Every time
afterwards.
there was a touchdown, a try. Every time there was a try, they put on a 20-second loop of Swing Low.
Yeah.
Gave them, you know,
It, you know, we felt kind of really great, you know, watching it. Yeah.
Got to support the, you know, the England rugby squad. I mean, like they're the best that we've seen in years.
Do we want to be relevant to young people? We just want to be relevant to people, you know, people our own age we want to be relevant to, you know.
As long as we can be sincere about what we're doing and not get cynical about it, you know, and go out and play the stuff and play it for music's sake, you know. Want to be the best. We will try to be the best band we can possibly be, and that's where I think responsibility ends. And if you're relevant to somebody great, or if I like one tune, or if I think you're all right, and you know, that's all right.
It's the profession that we chose. It's not like, you know, we've had enough of this. Someone become a plasterer or a painter, decorator.
You can't do it if people don't want to see you over. So, you know, it wouldn't be our choice to stop.
No, I mean, obviously, I mean, we'll continue to do this as long as the public can buy the records. Once they stop, then there's no reason to continue, is there? You know, but.
Well, they might stop buying the records, but we're a great live band.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that'd be
the record
enough
business being what it is at the moment.
That'd be enough,
That's what'll save us and give us another 20 years.